Hello, Perry. I had to
Hi.
get you into the show, or you would have rattled on trying to do fun for an hour that I don't have. So anyway, it's all fun, but we got to get on with this show for the sake of others too.
Okay.
So yeah, we will do that. I always go into these shows waiting for, not impatiently, but with respect, other beings to get in position and be ready to be of benefit to us on these journeys in the way they know best how to do that, that won't upset your physical life and throw you out in the gutter because you go nuts or schizophrenic, can't handle all the different planes. I don't want that. That's not the way we work. People need to unfold their higher faculties and who they are, what they once knew before they found themselves on this planet with no memory or very little. They need to uncover that because what was done to them wasn't done this lifetime and it wasn't done on this planet. What made them end up here. And you know that now, personally, you know. It's not easy to confront or accept or understand that kind of information when it crosses your path because it's just words, it's just information. Information about hidden disclosure and extraterrestrials and UFOs and anti-gravity and classified arenas and hidden government, military industrial complex, good and bad ETs, and beings from other planes and other dimensions. It's all good to know it, but it doesn't do anybody on Earth any good whatsoever unless they can experience remembering about it and how to function in the universe beyond Earth like they once did. So we have to do something to help people get up the courage to go beyond anything that was done with them, step forward, seek out and find new people and new contexts that aren't limited to the consciousness of people on this planet. It's like blind teachers leading the blind, going around in circles. People aren't really progressing here. I don't care how long they've been in any religion. They don't know what's off this planet. They don't know what's in heaven. They don't know who they are. They don't know what soul is. And they think they're making great progress because of faith or something else. But they're not, because they're not actually, as a being, not a body, creating with the source, the prime creator, to do new things like they're supposed to be. They're just stuck. So we want to help get that unstuck and get people utilizing their higher faculties. Takes a higher charge of energy. It takes an elevation in vibration to reach higher awareness, to bring it here on this planet full of subconsciously misdirected backward people. Do you know what the definition of insanity really is? Doing the same thing all the time, expecting results, but never getting any results. And then you keep doing it without changing. That's a definition of insanity. You got a planet full of people that are basically nuttier than they know because they keep doing the same thing without getting results. And it's because they're afraid to know what was done to them that put them here. They're terrified on a subconscious level they're not aware of that affects their nervous system and misdirects their thinking and feeling to not remember who they are, what they once knew, where they once knew how to travel, how they used to play in the universe on different dimensions long ago. I have to share the truth the way it is because I don't water it down. I don't go over people's heads. I will state it as it is so people can go, what did he just say? You mean I used to know this stuff too? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like working with the hue, or the first sound behind all creation, of which we're all comprised and from whence we all came at one time as beings, not bodies. People are ingrained in habit, brainwashing, government, religious, and political, and not just on this planet or just this dimension even. To not understand how to look into the multidimensional creation from Earth, telepathically connect with that one source, be anywhere on any plane, and understand things. The Atma, the real person, can go out of their body, go somewhere else as a round spherical energy. You ever wonder why planets and moons are all round and stars? People don't really get it. It's created in the image of the creators. If you want to call it God or the source, you can. But everybody that's living and moving a human body around, and even many animal bodies, had a hand in creating all of this long ago, before space and time was brought into reality as a concept and made real by beings. It was done originally so that people could create in different matter, lower dimensions, have form, get in and out of bodies, create and experiment, and find new ways of doing things to make the creation better than it was. And there's been some problems along the way in doing that. Thinking that good and bad, evil and good, positive and negative were good things for people to run through their own being, not the body, is part of the first step that was taken into a trap. What led to the entrapment of a good percentage of what we call prime creator in individual atoms or individual spheres like a soul, running around who can't remember where they came from, much less how to get back there. That's a big problem for the source, what we call prime creator. So our job as individuals is to recover who we are and go back to that source, which is not below the void known to most Buddhist monks. It's far beyond it. And you have to know how to get over that deep, dark, empty void and get into the planes of light and sound that are much higher than physical matter to recover that awareness and that ability. Because that's where it started, not down here. I will say these things, and it will affect people telepathically in a way that triggers something way back in their consciousness that just starts to not gnaw at them in a bad way, but begins to drive them in a new direction. They begin to drive themselves to come out of this swamp they've been living in not knowing and unconsciousness, and come into breathing and seeing and knowing again. That's done through the creative imagination because it isn't made up in the brain and it's not fantasy. It is the way the being, like a sun, energy, looks and sees and perceives things in different realities, connects to the energy that connects everything, plugs into it and says, I want to know what Bill's doing over there in the causal plane on this planet, 4 billion light years from here, 14 dimensions up this way. And you tune into it through the current and you look and you see and you know. And you bring that wisdom back to earth to better things for everyone. That's what we're supposed to be doing. You see any evidence of people on earth doing that? No. It's a pretty backward planet. It's not very evolved. Electricity's been around in this current culture for what, a little over 100 years? Ooh, whippy, electricity, light bulbs, ooh. Oil for cars, polluting everything. Oh, that's such a big invention. No. It's a pretty backward way of using energy. It pollutes everything. It's destructive, only destructive. You can run around for 100 years using the wrong energy to do the wrong things for all the wrong reasons, and eventually you destroy your entire world. The world would survive it. Human beings would not. And the world would recover with nothing on it. It'd be just Jim Dandy about the whole thing. Get those knuckleheads off the planet ruining everything. It's happened before, where the planet has actually done something. You could say the universe, through polar shifts, to destroy all life on the surface. Most mammalian and plant life. With few exceptions, some of the life under the sea, maybe, I don't know, maybe 2,000 human beings might have survived it and put back in a savage state with no utilities, no power, no industry, nothing. And then they breed with shut down genomes and no memory. And we end up, in the end, we end up with a consciousness on this planet like we have now. Races from all over the galaxy that didn't originate here, thrown together, unconscious on a planet with religious ways of, I would say, respecting the source that originate on other planets that people call religions here. but without the experience they originally had about any of it. Now you've got a bunch of people unconscious trying to get along who fight over religious stuff, petty little childish things, very childish, petty. And they fight over this stuff with each other. They have wars. They'll blow nuclear bombs up for religious, petty beliefs against someone else. This is not good. This is not normal. It's not healthy. It's the way people have become here. And it's reversible. That's why I do this. This radio show or any other is to help bring an energy through that's designed to help people remember. All people. Queen of England, military-industrial complex people, classified people, people from other planets, good and bad, anyone and everything, including animals, rocks, plants, water, air, all of it. It's all alive. It is energy. Everything you think is solid is moving atoms. It's constantly moving. But the molecular time rate of the atoms in your body and your eyes are moving at the same time rate as everything else around you. Because they're the same, you don't go through each other. If you change the time rate a little bit of you go right through stuff. There are ships out there that can go through walls. You think our government can prevent certain races from going through the planet, popping out somewhere in the field, picking someone up and disappearing? Because they can. They're not interested in getting into the petty arguments of people on Earth that don't know what they're doing and think they do. They don't have time to fight that out with people, and they don't care to. But they do care very much that people on Earth would try to take that level of doing the same thing without getting results and project it out into space and other races. They're not going to tolerate that, ever. So the way the world is now has to change if we want to play among the stars, among other things. Races out there would love to embrace us and show us everything, how to do stuff. We got to be sane people and trustworthy and kind to do it. Otherwise, all you've got is tyrants. And they will promise you the moon and stab you in the back every single time. And then laugh about it. So people have to make a choice when it's presented to them on this planet. They are going to have to choose for once correctly. And they're going to need a massive amount of help from off this planet in order to suspend their subconscious negative drives and fears long enough for them to make that choice. It's just that simple. And it's headed this way. Okay, enough said on that. I say this stuff not to beat around the bush, but to help people understand that they can wake up and become co-creatively involved in changing their own planet. With masses of people from elsewhere that are now awake enough in a certain way to even care to do it. This planet's negative junk is like a sewer that they want to take out on spaceships with nuclear rockets and pollute the entire galaxy with that arrogance. As if the way they know God and believe in God is better than anyone else, when it actually is not. Because they're not awake. They aren't being co-creators with that, what they claim they worship. They just want to have everything done for them like little children. They don't want to step up to bat and actually get out there and create as gods and goddesses, and I'm not kidding about that, amongst the great ones. And the great one can't expect to go to heaven or someplace permanently with no knowledge, no understanding of how anything works, and that you think you're a body. And when that body dies and goes to molecules and is worm food, it's going to be resurrected as a body. That's just getting things wrong. It's misunderstanding that the being leaves the body perishes. That being can recreate, under certain conditions, a body like that and run it around, but not if it doesn't remember who or what it is. People will go from one body to the next, trying to get it right, or trying to recover a life they had 10 million years ago. And they get frustrated because they don't know how to make that happen. They're not going to know how to make that happen if they're not back to remembering who and what they are that was in the beginning of all things. Every single person who would listen to your YouTube show never originated on this planet, ever. By far, billions of years ago isn't enough time to tell you how old one Atma is in terms of time and space. People start to think like this and start to remember like this, they can then go and play in all of that. Safely, kindly. There is no being at the center of all that is that ever commanded we worship it, or encouraged it, or demanded it. That is not the way it really is. Those kinds of things were created by beings with vested interests, ulterior motives, to get people to worship something, to control them. That's not what the source, if you want to call it that, ever requested of anyone, except one thing: respect all life. Don't pretend to love it to get something from it. Respect all life in the whole multidimensional creation. You do that, and you can play in it. It's just that simple. You can play in it because you can be trusted to be kind and to respect all life and be inspired to create and come up with new ways to solve bigger problems than little petty ones for the good of all life, including your own. That is what people on Earth are made to forget first by tyrants when they're captured in a history they no longer remember, compelled to reincarnate here with no memory, often many lifetimes in a row. Or then they'll get out and get on another planet, and they'll be in some other kind of being, maybe human or humanoid, and they'll have a life, and eventually they'll die, and they'll end up somehow back here. Still not quite getting the whole thing moving right. There's never been a single Atma. We're not talking about bodies or brains now. That's not who you are. There's never been a single Atma that's ever perished in the history of the entire multidimensional creation, from the high worlds that are beyond space and time to the low worlds that work with space and time. Never. Everybody's all caught up in this thing about death and dying. But that's only relative to bodies they were supposed to be able to get in and out of anyway, consciously, if you catch my drift. I know it's hard to see, but unless I say it the way it is, people aren't going to get it. If I want to pad it and make it fluffy and just tell them what they want to hear, anybody on Earth can do that for them. They're already doing it for them, for money. I don't charge for these things, these shows, or private sessions with people. There's no money involved. I work with beings from other worlds who will not tolerate that. What does that mean? It means that I have a way, I have certain ways of being assisted with bark from trees, pressed into paper with ink on it, which is what money is. It comes from trees, just like toilet paper or handkerchiefs. It comes from the same thing. It's actually from tree bark. Isn't that interesting? Money and toilet paper come from the same thing. The only reason money has value is because people are conditioned to it. They believe it has value, so they exchange it and will sell products in exchange for it. It's conditioning. There really isn't any value to it. It's still just bark from a tree with ink on it. And everybody agrees it has value, so they exchange it for things. There are races and cultures, vast numbers of them, that outlawed that long ago. What do you think the power people on Earth want to keep intact? The system as it is. They're not going to be able to do that for a lot longer because there are other kind beings in the universe who want to help them understand a greater way to live. Them too. No one's going to go out for harming anyone and blowing people up and starving people in the street and killing the governments and hurting royal families and any of that stuff. They just don't know what they're doing. If they did, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. It's not about that. It's about getting the vibration up to where all the people here can go into a consciousness change, remember who they are, and help change everything here with help from people from out of town, very far out of town, other planets, other realities, who come here all the time anyway, whether they like it or not. There are beings who come here, don't even need a ship, walk in a room and say hi to you and leave. There isn't any military power on this earth that can prevent any of that. And the good thing for all of them is the beings that can do that are not tyrants. They're not interested in running governments and taking over planets or anything like that. But they do want to help people on this planet get over this sickness of not knowing anything. Because they can't function that way, can they? You know, I do this to help people to trigger something in them that has been sleeping and dormant a very long time, long before this lifetime. And people begin to recall things that are very hard at first, maybe, but then they begin to go, you know, gosh, I used to know that stuff. It just seems so familiar, like I used to know it sometime, somewhere. And then they begin a journey. Subconsciously, really, but the Atma begins to create things differently. And it affects matter and who they meet, who they cross paths with. It's very subtle, but they begin to create despite the repressions that were put around them to make them forget. They begin to create a way out of the trap. They co-create it because the Atma's always had this ability to dominate, supervise, oversee any form of negativity or negative being in or out of bodies or any misuse of technology anywhere. The Atma doesn't come from the planes of time and space and matter as people understand it. It is energy, but it is not from the lower dimensions. Beings that are free out there, their biggest problem, I would say, is how do you go about changing people who are so tied up in knots subconsciously, they don't even know who they are or how they got to be on the planet they're on. That's the biggest problem to solve. It isn't about nuclear war or not having nuclear war. It's about consciousness and how to wake it up safely so people can stay balanced, even become more balanced while they're living their lives on Earth through this process. That is the task, in part, that I have and others I work with. How to do that safely so people can recover what they've been made to forget for. It would shock them if they understood how long they've been unconscious in this way, from life to life, planet to planet, really not remembering much. Some lifetimes higher than others, sometimes lower. Kind of random. Not so good. So, the Atma, the individuals I'm talking to now, not their bodies, deep on a certain level, know how to do this. They just have been made to forget it. It's not gone, it's not lost, it's not destroyed. It's just they've been coerced or manipulated to voluntarily forget, using their imagination to set themselves free. And that is something that is hard for people to see because it wasn't pleasant, it isn't nice. They didn't end up on this planet with no memory because they were treated wonderfully. This is important. It isn't to tell people anything negative. It's to tell people that everything that they think they should be afraid of, to leave their body out there in the universe. or to meet extraterrestrials. It isn't about that, the fear they have of all that unknown. They think, oh, if I get out of my body and go up into these worlds and meet with extraterrestrials, I'll get trapped by the bad guys. The demons will get me. This is incorrect. They've already been got. They've already been had. They've already been hoodwinked. They've already been tricked. They're on Earth with no memory. As far down as it goes. And in reality, the majority of beings that can get in and out of bodies are from other planets. The great vast majority of them are kind, wonderful, benevolent. You'd love them. They're not going to harm anybody or act like demons. In fact, they act more like protecting people when they first start doing this again, so that such negative things don't come near them. And if they do, they're neutralized. It's a win-win. Some demons come toward you, somebody from maybe a demon in a body, a reptilian maybe, intent on eating you alive. And they suddenly are changed. They can't get near you because things are different now. It gives people the opportunity to change without the fear they think they have to be worried about, to explore and wake up all of who they are as a being. There are certain protections in place now that were not there, not available to people on this planet, as far as I know, with very rare exceptions, said, until about 7.5 years ago Earth time. It's that recent. There's no more little gray guys abducting people on this planet. And people are still talking about what happened 20, 30 years ago. It's not going on anymore. And I don't think any of them stopped long enough to look and smell the roses and understand that that has been stopped permanently. It hasn't been announced from the White House as something that's part of disclosure, but it's happened anyway. Now people are busy talking about negative things that happened to millions of people that did occur on this planet that's no longer occurring. They're left with the psychological harm, fear, things like this, those that were returned. But the same things that were in play then are no longer in play. This planet and its solar system is quarantined, not by the bad guys. What does that mean, quarantined? It means simply the beings who are quarantined this solar system are not interested in interfering in the affairs of this world, unless the affairs of this world unconsciously and in an insane movement head towards annihilation of the planet through radioactive devices, number one. They're not going to let that happen. That would harm billions of life, not only animals and plants, but many parallel dimensions on this planet that people don't even know exist. And it would harm life elsewhere out in our solar system that also exists there. And beyond that, they're not going to tolerate it. There was a time when they would have stood back and let it happen. And they did. That time is gone. It means that if people from Earth want to get healthy and live among the stars and enjoy greater technology, the old way they've been living down here for tens of thousands, even millions of years, in a history they no longer recall, has got to change permanently. They're never going to be allowed to go and play among the stars the way they are on this planet now, because they're just nuts. They're destructive, selfish. And that's not going to work. That's not their nature either, to be that way. And they all know it. I'm not telling anybody on Earth that's listening to this anything they don't know. They just don't know how to get out of it, and they want to. To do that, they have to be humble and kind to themselves first, and to all life. And this is an act that only the Atma can do to change things. And then they get all the help from other beings and technology they would ever dream of. It's fear of the unknown. What happens if the world becomes transformed? How will we live? Will I be able to trade my 20 sheep for that computer? Will we use bark from a tree for money? No. There would be no need. No one would want it. They're busy doing other wondrous creative things and leave that behind, like the childhood of the Atma and lifetimes. So I want to make that clear. Let's go on a little journey. When I say this stuff, it's meant for the good, kind, uplifting, recovering enlightenment of all life, without exception, on this planet. It's for everyone or it's not for anyone. This is kind of the way beings from other worlds think and live and move and have their being. And it's liberating. It's not like on Earth. I, for one, want to see this world, along with everyone, changed for the better, so they can go out and play among the stars and have a glorious time being enlightened. Should be like that. So I'll ask everybody who's listening to sit in a chair or lie on the floor, on the ground, the carpet, and put all your fears about the future destiny of yourself, your family, your life, money, taxes, governments, classified this, extraterrestrial that, and so forth. It's all there. It's not going anywhere. Put it aside around your room with your body that you're going to put in the trance state we call sleep. It means that all of your concerns and worries and negative emotions that misdirect your thinking, you are a free will putting them aside. It's easy to do it. You can imagine eating a hot dog. You can imagine seeing a butterfly or looking at a waterfall or a beautiful green grass field. We do it in daydream all the time. You're just putting all your negative stuff aside for right now. Then imagine someone or something you love and respect, a person, place, or thing, that you're grateful whatever that is in your life, because when you first imagine it, it makes you smile. It just is a constructive, positive emanation of what you decide to see in the multidimensional universe. It's important for individuals co-creating in this journey that when they see anything with their eyes closed, their physical eyes are not working. There's no motion picture camera, no motion picture screen showing them what they see in their brain somewhere. The eyes are turned off. So when they see something, who or what is seeing it? Not the brain. We're putting that in the trance state called sleep. What do I mean by that? When you go to bed at night, out of habit, and the way you grew up, you put the bed to sleep, you're tired, you yawn, and you lay down, and you identify with being a body. So you go unconscious with it. Of course, what you really do is once the body goes to sleep, you take unconsciousness with you out of it, and you go out into the universe every single night. And you do things. And you know it when you're out there, when you're not limited to the negative effects of the physical body on Earth. You have higher faculties available to you. And then when you come back, sometimes you'll have a very up experience and you'll be so excited you'll bring the energy and the consciousness awareness of what you did when you were out of the body. And you call it a dream in the morning. Very vivid, realistic kind of thing. And then you get up and go about your day and forget about it. Oh, I just made that up in my brain. Gee, that was neat. I wonder why I had a nightmare 2 weeks back and now I'm having this wonderful thing. And that's how people think on Earth, because they don't understand. So everybody goes to sleep, goes out of their body at night. What's happening is when they get restful enough and calm enough, an unconscious aspect of one of their higher faculties on automatic causes the pineal gland in the center of the brain to secrete melatonin and create serotonin, which puts the body on automatic So the heart will work and the lungs will work while you're gone. There is a link, a telepathic link, from the pure primordial first sound behind all creation to the core of your white core being that's round to that body through the pineal gland. It cannot be severed by nuclear weapons or radar machines or anything else. It isn't made of physical matter, and it's not affected by physical matter. So you can run the body like everybody does when you go out at night. And you come back, you wake it up, you get up, you yawn, go into the bathroom, brush your teeth, whatever you do. And there's your day and night. Did you ever notice how at least 8 hours for many people is spent in an unconscious body? So they think that they get up the next day and they think there's just this plot of time between going to bed and waking up where nothing happens. The reason the body is, you can yell at a person in deep sleep and they won't come out of it, is because there's nobody home. It takes a shock to that body, even a mild one, to bring that person back in order to protect their home here on earth, who they are, who they think they are. So we're going to do the same thing. Take several deep breaths. And then imagine a beautiful hummingbird hovering about a foot from your face. Everybody's seen a hummingbird just flutter there and can fly backwards or sideways like a helicopter. Beautiful little beings, and they just look at you. Rainbow colored. You could swear these little blue eyes are sending energy into yours. And it's a telepathic communication from one being to another. It's not in words, it's in images. It's clear and accurate communication without distortion. And you look behind you, you see a green grass field and a snow-capped mountain range and some weeping willow trees by a lazily, slowly moving wide stream. People do it all the time. What they don't realize is that they're actually seeing it somewhere in creation, on Earth, or in many parallel dimensions where Earth exists in higher frequency, or in other dimensions higher, or on other planets. This is what the imagination really is, that people don't really understand what it is they're doing when they imagine something. They mistakenly believe the brain made it up. The brain isn't designed to do such things. That's not what it's for. A human body would not do anything except sit in a chair, atrophy, and die if a being wasn't running it. Human bodies don't run themselves. Brains don't run personalities and talk to you on automatic like a robot. The Atma has to be running it, or it does nothing. And that's how unconscious Earth really is. People don't know this. They don't understand it. But that's because in their history that they no longer remember, something was done to make them forget all this. And it's not permanent. No matter what tyrants might tell you, it is not permanent. Just the way you imagined this snow-capped mountain and the hummingbird, a lazy stream by weeping willow trees, beautiful, warm, balmy midday summer, sweet smell of gardenia and lilacs in the air, flowers on the wind, and you're breathing in an atmosphere that you know, just standing there with your bare feet in this green grass field. There's no pollutants in the oxygen. There's no pollutants in the water. There's nothing polluted here at all. And neither are you. So where do you think this is that you're seeing this? On Earth somewhere? No place on the planet I know that isn't polluted somehow, air or water, something. So where is it we just imagined? How do we experience being there more fully? and bring back the wisdom and the understanding of greater life in the multidimensional universe to make it better for our lives here on Earth and for others. This is what this is all about. Imagine being above your body, looking down on it, sitting there, or lying down, however you're doing it. And you're looking from a white core that's spherical like a sun, but white energy, and you're looking through layers of teardrop-shaped lights, 3 or 4 inches away from each other, in layers through the spectrum color of white light to orange to red, further away from the center, to blue to green to lavender to violet to a golden energy field emanating from the white core that surrounds this spherical you. Atma, what advanced extraterrestrials call soul, what you would call soul on Earth. There's a difference between people who call soul and talk about it on Earth and those people, because they know what it is, what it looks like, how to move themselves around in or out of bodies. To them, that's just normal. Earth is not yet a normal planet. Not when you compare it to so many others out there. It most certainly is not yet. When you look up, you find yourself as a sphere looking through your different layers, and you can see in any direction wherever you place your attention. And you're floating at about 5,000 feet in the atmosphere. If it's night, you can see the stars and other worlds out in space, even if it's cloudy. And you can see yourself as a sphere, still you, hovering above that body near the ceiling. And the body is sitting in a chair or lying down. Both are you. The Atma can be in more than one place at one time. It isn't limited to physical matter. Never was. When you look up, you see a ship that's a silver blue metal with a blue halo of light around it, hovering there, the soft hum. It's near you. There are men and women from other worlds aboard that ship. 4 couples. A man and a woman, one couple, is sitting in the back of this ship. It's about 30 feet across, sitting in a cushy seat with their eyes closed. And when you look beside you, you see 2 Atmas that look just like you appear and hover to each side of you. And then you see a man and a woman's form. An impression you get telepathically that back on the ship they have bodies like you from another world, human. And they're going to go on this little journey with you as a protector to keep your subconscious negative fears at bay, turned off while you go on this journey. And when you come back, you can pick up your life, perhaps slightly changed for the better. When you look up, you see the stars of space, and you find yourself hovering in space above planet Earth, like the space shuttle or a ship. But you don't need to breathe oxygen. You are a spherical energy form, luminous, that isn't the physical body. Never was. And you can see this couple beside you. You can see myself. You'll see by the impression when you look at the sphere that I'm hovering there, around a friend of mine named Ambassador Terrellian. He's from the Seres race, an original race that developed into the human form built several billion years ago out in the galaxies, that were 18 to 25 feet tall when they had physical bodies. And we get our genomes for the kind of human beings we are, anyone on this planet from any race, from them originally. So you see, human beings never evolved on this planet. They didn't evolve originally in the Milky Way galaxy. They were brought here from elsewhere long ago. The human form in this form has been this evolved or higher for longer than life has been coming to this planet in the last 50 plus million years since the dinosaurs were made extinct. They're never going to find a missing link on Earth because it isn't on Earth. Okay. You're in space. You don't need to breathe oxygen. You can look down and see the polar ice caps of the planet, the beautiful oceans, the land masses, our barren moon that does not turn on its axis. It always shows us the same face as it revolves around the planet. That's why people call the dark side or the other side of the moon the dark side, because it faces away from us. But it's not dark all the time. It moves in front of the sun too, as it revolves around the planet. If you want to do something about space and you don't want people on Earth to know it, you don't want to have them be able to see it with telescopes or radio telescopes, you put it on the backside of the moon because people can't see it from Earth. You can see this world and you can see all the stars, billions of them in every direction when you look out in space, and there seems to be a darkness or a blackness between the stars. You can see our own sun off in the distance, brighter than those stars. But there's an energy field that you, as the Atma, the spherical being, can see. And it's a white field of light with a golden tinge running through it that seems to permeate all of the void of space. And you can see that the Earth and the moon are floating in it, suspended in it. This energy is not made of electrons and protons and neutrons and atoms. It is energy that connects everything together: planets, people, things, parallel dimensions, higher dimensions, the void, across the void, the higher worlds. It's linked through this field of energy. And we all live and move and have our being in it. Like drops of pure water, individual, running around a mighty ocean of exactly the same water. This is how we really are. To know this and move around creation, it goes quite beyond what people understand as bliss. It goes into the depths of serenity of being. Serenity of being is a wise, deep, understanding, knowing state. And only the Atma can do that, free from the limitations of physical bodies. Back on Earth, that you can see there, from this distance, you don't see any fences or walls or cities or barriers between countries. You see one beautiful blue-green jewel of a planet full of water and land, one atmosphere that could not possibly have affected evolving the different human races that are on the surface of that planet from within its own atmosphere. They were brought to Earth from different worlds long ago and left behind under different scenarios covering a very vast period of time. When you look out, you can see that this friend of mine, Turellian, is a little brighter sphere than we are, not better, not superior, just more aware of what he is and how to work it. And you can see several dozen people in a big circle as spheres circling around him. And I move over beside him and I hover there. This is as a focal point, so people can stay focused on the journey and not get scattered off in any willy-nilly, frivolous imagination that might come their way. We're doing this for constructive reasons, to help people remember. At some point, we may be able to take or escort people into greater journeys. In some private sessions, we go to some pretty far away places. In a radio show for people who are not yet familiar with some of that, we are not going to go there. You seem to have come out of your little trance state. You want to go back into that period because we're not done. You can hear a sound flowing through creation that sounds like the humming of bees, but gentle. And like a thin little ting of a bell, a glass bell hit with a little hammer that just ping, racing through creation. Sound and the different frequencies of it are how the creation was built, all levels of it. Everyone once knew this. Therefore, it still exists, and all that's really necessary is that people recover their memory of it, what to do with it. Look down on Earth. Let me show you something. We've done this before. And you're going to see like a heat wave in the desert move across your vision. We're still just hovering there in space around Terrellium. Some friends from other worlds, Shantiel, Tonatiel, Dantiam, Lamtiam, husband and wife teams, people I know, friends, kind beings, human. They're in their Atma form now. And you can see the image of Earth change, like dropping a drop of water in a still pond, and it ripples out to the sides of the lake. And now it clears, and you see another Earth in the same space, and a different moon. The Earth you see now has no polar ice caps. Beautiful turquoise blue oceans, clean air, lots of clouds, just like you'd see on our Earth, and a huge continent centered over the equator that extends all the way to the left, right hemispheres of your field of vision, half the planet. Extends considerably far in the north, considerably far into the south. And on the other side of the planet, you can see right through it because you're an Atma. There's another continent there, 2/3 the size of the one facing you. About the same shape, centered over the equator. And the moon here, spinning on its axis, going around the planet in the same distance, has atmosphere and clouds and little small oceans and lakes and little clear domed cities on it, half a dozen. It's alive. And it's the same moon, the same Earth, but in a higher parallel dimension of physical matter. I start like, come on, say hi. Okay, come on. All right, I know. You can see an emerald green beach at the bottom point of the continent, 2/3 away between the equator and the South Pole. It's half moon base shaped. It's glittering even from space. And we're going to go take a little visit to that beach. And you're going to find yourself moving through space, suddenly moving through the atmosphere. The air and the clouds blow right through you. You don't feel cold or heat. It's exhilarating. And we come to hover, slow down and hover above this emerald green. It's like a upside down, half curved, half moon shape. The sand is emerald green. And there's a 3-foot wide brown path leading straight back into a jungle. Giant palm trees, much taller than those on Earth, and huge prehistoric looking ferns. Big flowers, 4 feet tall, 3 or 4 feet wide. And little birds with long V-shaped split tails. They look like blue jays, but the tails are 2/3 longer than their body. Again, 2/3 longer. And they've got blue eyes, luminous, radiant blue eyes that wrap partially around the side of their temples. They're very, very beautiful. They have rainbow-colored feathers with the colors blended smoothly from one to the other. and they're glistening in the sunlight. They have two sets of bird wings, one above the other. Like a dragonfly has two sets, but these are bird wings, and they're hovering like a hummingbird. They aren't from the world you know. And they have the most beautiful singing voices. They know how to sing in 3 and 4 and 5 part harmony. Their Atmas running these bird bodies like an Atma could run a human body. In this reality, they do it of free will to experience what it's like to run a telepathic, non-human body that has a photographic memory, has vocal cords, and can also communicate telepathically and fly. Pretty cool stuff. And they come up to you and they see you as a spherical being. The next instant, you feel a physical feet, bare feet, sinking into the emerald green sand, just up to your ankles, and it feels wonderful. If you look down and pick up some of this sand, they're little teeny small bits of emerald, polished, smooth, round. They're transparent, and they're glittering like starlight. The sunlight is glittering off of them. Your feet feel cool energy in the sand, but a warm energy is running up your legs. And it goes up into the white core of your own spherical being, hovering above this body that looks like you on Earth, but trim and fit, perfectly healthy, about 36, an adult. So that you can have tactile sensation here. You can smell gardenias and lavender on the air. And you look inland, and you can see this brown 3-foot wide path extend several miles. And way off in the distance, past the jungle, begins grassy field lands. And there's a huge circular violet-colored grass field. And you're drawn to it. So you feel your feet lift up out of the sand and vanish. And there's Torellian, and we're moving in a circle and moving over the top of the jungle trees and coming down towards the ground on the brown path in 4-foot high lavender grass. There's a clearing, and there's white marble stone that makes a donut-shaped floor. And there's a pedestal made of what you would call lapis lazuli, blue stone with gold running through it, polished. And there is a woman standing on it, a statue that's made of polished quartz. Slightly blue, sunlight passing through it reflects rainbow colors on the leaves all around you and onto the white marble floor. And this is a statue of a female in elegant blue dress with a jewel, like an emerald jewel, a little gold band around her forehead. And violet eyes. Slightly pointed ears, long black hair. And wings like an angel. This is symbolic. Big angel wings going way up to points spread out behind her. With her hands out to the side of her head open, with the palms facing back down the brown 3-foot wide path to the green emerald beach. There's a vibration, a subtle blue glow radiating as an auric field around the outer edge of this crystal. And you can hear a sound like running water in a brook. And you go up and look into the abdomen area of this transparent form of this woman's statue. And you can see another world with 3 moons around it, somewhere else in the galaxy, completely water covered, with 3, 4, 5, maybe half a dozen little islands, several hundred miles, maybe a little more, around the equator, no other land. 3 moons full of life, land, water, oceans, circling it, 2 suns. This is in the Milky Way galaxy, 3 parallel dimensions up from the physical planet you're aware of. The place we're at now is on the 3rd dimensional level above the physical planet Earth in the same space at a different molecular time rate. Here there is a Lemuria that is run by beings from other worlds, master adepts, protected from any form of negativity, has been there since the poles on Earth flipped, destroying Lemuria, but it was never destroyed here. And you're walking, breathing, and being in the air of this place. In the further distance, you can see this brown path continues further up into higher elevations until it thins the grass to become blue-green forest trees. And up higher elevation at the base of a giant snow-covered mountain is a very, very large, clear, crystal-like, transparent dome city covering 3 giant golden-sided pyramids with quartz caps. They surround a long ivory-colored building about a third the height of the pyramids between them at their base. When you look up the side of the mountain, 2/3 up towards the summit, you'll see a cavern opening and a large waterfall roaring out of it and dropping thousands of feet down to a place where it is drops behind the dome and goes off in different directions through the blue-green forest trees. Above that cavern opening with the water flowing out of it is another cavern, obviously constructed, that is semi-spherical with curved edges and little half-sphere white domed lights running down into the interior, straight back into the mountain. That ends up coming out of the interior of Mount Shasta in Northern California, from one parallel dimension to another. And we're not going there today, but look down on this city. You can see tall minaret, clear blue, green, and other kind of glass-like crystalline structures between the pyramids, and little transport tubes running from this ivory-colored dome building at the base of the pyramids in numbers of directions through a countryside. This is a very large city. Through the countryside of lakes and little white marble pathways and little dome ivory-colored dwellings, and out of the dome at its base into the jungle and off into different directions towards the beach. These are hollow transport tubes, clear, luminous blue, and you can see little cars, blurs of light darting down them, heading off into different directions. At the western base of this dome city, facing that direction we came from the emerald green beach, are 3 landing pads, circular and flat. And there are 3 extraterrestrial craft parked here with silver blue metal for our pleasure on. They have a kind of a luminous blue aura around them, kind of anti-gravity field. When you look back at the beach from up here above this mountain, looking down on this dome city, you can see that tall lavender grass field around a white marble flow in the angel statue. And in the next moment, you find yourself hovering above it, looking down on it. And then you look down and see you in a healthy, young, vital form that looks like you, but is made of energy from the Atma hovering above it. Both are you. And you look out towards the coast, you find your feet sinking into that emerald green sand again, getting a charge of awareness and consciousness from this place. And then you find yourself hovering above the blue ocean, and then above the planet, looking on the Lemurian continent in this third dimensional, parallel dimensional area where Lemuria never sank. Poles don't flip here. This is a prototype for the way Earth can become. It's been there for a very long time, and beings come back and forth into our reality all the time, but on a bit higher level than scientists and classified people understand yet. And then in space, you see this heat wave effect move over space and you see the planet you're familiar with in the same space and the barren moon, polar ice caps, and you find yourself hovering above wherever you are at 5,000 feet in the atmosphere, looking down on the city and the home where you live, and you sitting in a chair or lying down in the trance state we call sleep, the physical body. You're bringing this awareness back to Earth with you consciously. Find yourself as a sphere hovering above that body, looking kindly down on it. And then when you're ready, open your eyes.
Wow.
Details. It's all about the details.
Uh-huh. At the beginning, I slept a bit, I have to admit, and then I went to the...
That happens. I want people to know that if they go to sleep, it's just an old habit. They've been doing it their whole life. It takes a practice, a little effort on your part to stay alert. That's why I use my voice. While I'm out there with you, I'm using this body to get people to actively, creatively imagine what I'm sharing with them. It turns certain things on in the higher faculties that have not been used in them consciously in a long time, before this lifetime, long before it. It begins to engage them in that so they can start to kind of get the understanding of how this works. They go to sleep every night anyway. They might as well be conscious of what they're doing. The only way to get developed to where you can do that with effortlessness, easily, is to practice it, to exercise dormant muscles, get higher faculties working, their imagination moving in the right direction. And then it starts to click of its own. And there are beings out there, and you'll meet, that will help you. But you have to co-create the initiative for them to help you. They're not tyrants. Okay, so I'll leave everybody with that and wish everybody wonderful dreams wherever they are on Earth. Keep trucking, keep imagining. Don't ever believe it's coming from your brain. It's coming from the real you running that body that sees that stuff. Okay, later then.